The difference between the entrepreneurs who make it and the ones who don't is prioritization. And prioritization just comes down to having very clear plan of action and very clear objectives that you want to reach for every single day, every single week, every single quarter, every single year. So it's never been easier to start that side hustle, that project, that business you've always wanted to because of the new technology we have, new AI tools. The roadmap is just more clear than ever. If you go to Barnes & Noble's and you pick up any 5 or 6 best-selling business books out there, they all pretty much lay out the same structure and path to get there. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. There are a lot of people who have figured out a path to do it and made it repeatable.
So what we're going to do today is break down a step-by-step plan, complete blueprint, so you can get started. If you've started from zero, which is having done zero work towards starting something, to at the end, having started some business or some project that will get you to $10,000 per month.
Yeah, let's do it.
And the reason it's so important to do this kind of planning step is because, as you've always said, without a plan, you are planning to procrastinate. A plan is really important. A lot of people just think they can wing it and get there. But if we look at anything that is ever successful, anything that is sustainable, we need some kind of plan or general, at least system or guide to follow, or else we'll procrastinate, we'll fall off track, we will go the wrong direction. You think if you get a coach, what's the first thing they'll do with you? They'll create a plan for the upcoming few months that you work together. If you think about going to school, the whole semester is laid out to you. There's a plan for getting your curriculum so you can graduate. So starting your own business is no different.
Yeah, for me, I like a plan to be very structured, and I want to always know what I need to be doing at all times. Because for something like entrepreneurship, the path is really long and it's not clearly defined as if I wanted to be a doctor, then I know based on hundreds or thousands of case studies that a pre-med will become a doctor at the end of the road in 10 years, say. There's an exact number. So if I knew that I had to work this hard for 10 years and I would come out the other side guaranteed a doctor, then that path to me is way more safe and enticing than if I were to just not know, if I'm going to go into entrepreneurship and I don't know how long I need to work for, I just need to know that I need to work hard and maybe someday I'll be successful. Then that's way scarier to me.
Yeah. The thing is, though, the entrepreneurship, even if there are these blueprints, it's pretty hard to say specifically in 5 years you're going to have something. Some people can get there a lot faster. Some people can get there a lot slower. I think entrepreneurship, unlike school or medicine, luck does play a much bigger factor. In school, it doesn't matter how smart you are. You have to go through all 4 years to graduate. But in entrepreneurship, it's if you get lucky in the first year because you just happen to fall into the right market at the right time in the right business, then you can take off a lot faster. That could also be true on the other end, where you could not get lucky for a long time and then slowly just grind your way, and it could take 10, 15, 20 years even. And so luck does play a factor. And so that's what these guides are supposed to help, is to increase the chances of you striking gold because you are following, hopefully, what is more repeatable from other people.
I believe that there's 2 kinds of luck. There's luck that just happens to you, and there's luck that you can generate for yourself.
Yeah.
You can increase your likelihood of getting lucky. There's step-by-step things that you can do, but that all ties back into the plan.
Right.
So again, there's a plan for doing many things. And I think one of the most important things for a person to follow through with a plan is if they know that they can succeed.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Right. Your brain needs a lot of convincing
right,
in order to do something. And the more evidence that you can find, the better it will be, at least for your motivation to continue working towards it.
Yeah.
So let's start breaking down this plan about how we would go again, which we're pretty much trying to do now, starting a new product. How would we go from A to Z, from nothing to full steam towards this business or this project that would get to $10,000 per month? Okay. So the framework that we like to use is to break things down by time interval. And we're thinking about long time horizons here for how long it could take to start a YouTube channel or business or get traction on something. And so I think a good thing that's worked for us, at least, is to break it down at the year level. So if you think ahead from today to 1 year from now, what would you have wanted to achieve for yourself, and who have you become in order to get you closer to that goal? And then from the year, we kind of just break this down and chunk it into smaller pieces. So a year, and then we kind of reverse engineer this to a quarter. So there are 4 quarters in the year, fall, winter, spring, summer. Again, we chunk that down even further to weeks. So how many weeks in a quarter? And then again, we chunk that down even further to how many days in the week. And so it goes days, weeks, quarters, years. And at each step of those system, we call each of those systems, like the week system, the day system, the quarter system, the year system, there is a different way to think about setting a goal that you can reach for.
Yeah, definitely. I need the day because I need to know what to do every day.
Yeah.
Even if you know exactly what you need to do year by year, like it's the time horizon so far that I'm just going to lose motivation if I don't know what I need to do today.
Right.
There's going to be some days when I'm off, some days when I'm really motivated. But yeah, would you recommend people starting with the day first and building up to a year, or would you recommend people starting from like what is their year goal and then kind of breaking it down backwards?
Yeah, I think it's actually helpful to start first by identifying what is like the overall goal that you have and then reverse engineering it from there. As long as you cover all four of those systems, the day, week, quarter, and year, throughout your planning process, you'll be fine. I don't think it really matters which direction you go in. Maybe this year we'll try reversing. The next year we can try prospectively looking at it. But as long as you have an idea of what all four of those systems are doing, I think you're in a good place.
Okay. So let's start with year. We should probably pick an actual case study or pick an actual pathway. We're talking about starting a business, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
Going from 0 to 10K per month, doing your own business.
So let's starting it with a year. How long does it take to get to 10K per month? How many years would you expect?
I guess it's not like really expecting how many years. The way I like to think about the year is a year from now, who do you have to become? Like what kind of person is able to achieve 10K per month? Like the gap between who you are right now and that person. So it's less thinking about like, it's going to take me this many years to get to 10K per month. It should be thinking, it's going to take me this year to become the person who can reach 10K per month. I like self versus future self because the actions that you take or your future self takes is something that's in your control. Whereas thinking about like a monetary value or, you know, like a business that does this much money is a lot harder to control for. But at least you can do what you can. And those are the things that you can actually achieve. So I think to think of it in terms of personal transformations, I guess, or the personal transformation from you to your future self. There are a lot of ways to get to $10,000 per month. There are like, I don't know, 30 million businesses in the US. There are, who knows, 100 million businesses in the world. And I'm sure a lot of those businesses do more than 10K per month. I guess what I'm trying to say is there are a lot
of examples of like what you mean.
Sure. There are a lot of ways to get to where you want to go. So you can sell physical products, you can sell high ticket products,
So
you
like
can
your
sell low ticket
business
products,
model, right?
you can sell communities, you can sell anything. And what you need to do first is identify which one of these paths resonates with you the most, because there's no right or wrong way to get there.
Yeah.
Because you can get there in a lot of different ways. And so a good strategy to start with is like, think of a case study of someone that you admire or look up to who has achieved that. It could be us, it could be another YouTuber, it could be another entrepreneur. So we can put some names to this. Since you're probably watching this on YouTube, the first people that come to mind for me are like, you know, Ali Abdaal, Thomas Frank, who else has talked about this? Dan Koh, people like that. They were all like creators in some capacity who've built a business after it that generated $10,000 per month.
I guess one thing I'll add to that is when you're picking a path or thinking about a path that you want to take, you want to match it to yourself as much as possible. It's something that Daniel Priestley calls your origin story. Like if you were a superhero, like, what is your origin story? Like, how did Spider-Man get his powers kind of thing? Because we get this question quite a bit when people watch us selling our Notion templates and asking us like, how do I get to where you are selling Notion templates? And my first question would be like, how long have you been using Notion? Like, do you like it? And they're like, I've never used it ever before.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Like, do you like Notion? So like you want to match, I guess, your passions and your overall life narrative to the path.
Yeah.
Like if you're a person who's never ever played video games in your life, you're not going to do well selling video game products, right? It's just
For sure.
like you need to have some sort of passion for the actual path,
more than
and
just
some knowledge, experience, etc. Right?
Yeah, more than just the financial reward from it.
Right. If you're only in this for the 10K and that's all you want, then you're
pretty
less
screwed.
likely going to make it.
Yeah, you're not going to last the year
Right.
or longer than that. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and that's kind of why I think doing a case study example is a really good strategy for you, because if you're thinking about the people who've earned or the people that you want to become, there are probably a few people who immediately come to mind for you about who you want to be like. And so if you don't know, like a good place to start is go through your YouTube search history. What kind of influencers or brands or businesses do you like consume because you're really interested in what they do? What are like the last few books that you've read? What are the social media content that you generally gravitate toward? What did you study in college? What are some like things that you used to do as a kid that you were like really, like Daniel Priestley said, like really obsessed over? Or how does that like relate to what you're currently doing right now? And you're probably going to be able to find some patterns or similarities of entrepreneurs or businesses or certain things that intrigue you and that you'd want to go down.
I'll just use us as an example here. There's a reason why we didn't start on Twitter, why we didn't start on LinkedIn or on Pinterest.
Yeah.
I started on YouTube because as a kid, I always wanted to make videos. That's what I spent the majority of my time is making and editing videos. I guess we kind of started on Instagram, kind of started on SoundCloud, kind of started on Spotify.
Yeah.
For the reason that you were really obsessed about producing music. And so all those channels made sense.
Yeah.
So like think about just what you did as a child in your free time, or just think about whenever you procrastinated on doing things, what were you procrastinating with?
Right.
And then really hone in on what that interest was and tap into it.
Right. And then whatever that interest is, I would do case studies of some people who have used that same interest or taken a similar path and then achieved this $10,000 per month or whatever that goal you're looking for is. So again, for us, like we can use this as an example. I'll use Ali Abdal as a good example again, because he pretty much followed a similar path to us, where he went to medical school first, and then he started a YouTube channel in medical school, and then he started doing digital products. And that's pretty much a similar path that we've taken. And so we kind of used like this case study to see like, oh, it's possible that we can do what we do. Thomas Frank is another example, someone who had a YouTube channel helping students study and be more productive. We're like, oh, it's possible, it's repeatable again. And so you want to find a few, like maybe like 4 or 5 different case studies of individuals who've used that obsession or passion that you had to achieve that goal. And then what you have to do is like, as a case study, what does case study mean? You just have to analyze like, what is their story? What was their path from getting from where they were to where they are? And there are plenty of tools to do that nowadays. AI is a great tool. It's easier, I think, to find people who have shared their own story. So especially if they have a personal brand, like those people I just named, in most of their content, they have shared parts of their journey. Like I know Ali for sure has like done many long rambly YouTube videos about his exact path and how to get there. And so you can definitely use those as motivation and inspiration for you to figure out, does this make sense for me as my year goal to someone to become like that?
I'll add that if they have a book, if they have a biography, that would be amazing. But I think most people don't. But if they wrote books, that just indicates that they've spent a long time thinking about deep ideas. And if they have a podcast, I think that's pretty helpful. But like imagine you're just going to school and you're taking a course on them, you're studying them. You can't make it there simply by just studying exactly what they did. Because if you repeat exactly what they do, you're not going to succeed.
Right, because you're not them.
Yeah, you're not them.
And that's why I think like doing multiple case studies is going to be good, because that way you can find at least if there's some pattern or commonality between them. And specifically what you're looking for in the commonality are, you want to look for things that they did. So what kind of like projects did they start, or what kind of like skills did they learn? Look into what kind of people they met or who helped them along the way. So just kind of think about like, oh, like in order to get from this point to this point, they built this YouTube channel. To get from this point to this point, they might have built a digital product, or they might have met a co-founder or something like that to aid them in step 1 to step 2. And you're just going to look at the different case studies and see, oh, they all seem to have maybe started a YouTube channel and grew that alongside learning this first part of the business. Or they all hired like a video editor first. Or as a creator, maybe they all started like a merch line or at a certain point. So you're just looking at like the projects, skills, and the people that they might have met along the way.
So in summary, January 1st, pretend today is January 1st.
Yeah.
By December 31st, you are going to become your future self. And the difference between your present self and your future self is that this new you has a new set of skills, has under their belt a new set of projects. You have new experiences, you have met new people, you have new relationships. So those skills and projects together, I would call them leverage. This new future you has more leverage than this past you.
Right.
And that leverage is so important. We can probably dive into that, but that leverage, byproduct of leverage would be $10,000 a month, but along with a lot of other things.
Right.
You know, like relationships and, you know, happiness and security and fun. There's a lot of things that come from this future self with higher leverage.
It's a personal transformation, and you're just improving yourself. You're increasing your own personal leverage, because we always hear like these phrases like your network is your net worth. So that's specifically talking about who you know. It's like, what kind of skills do you have? Your skills stack increases your leverage again. So it's like what you can do. So all of these things that you can do, who you know, and what like resume of portfolio and projects you have, people can visually see, oh, this guy knows what they're doing. And so you'll never like run out of opportunities if you just continue to build those 3 things up over the long term. It's really important to remember again that the case studies of the people you're looking at, if they have been entrepreneurs for like 20 years, then you want to kind of look near the beginning of their journey, not at the end, because you have to meet them where they are, or they have to meet you where you are. You're starting from zero, not from like a $2 million business already. And so
Which
think about
is
the steps.
very difficult because you normally don't see people until they've gotten big.
Yeah.
So if you like want to use someone as a case study, you really got to dig back deep into their history, like all the super old videos that they posted.
Right.
Like their very first episode, and see like what their mindset was like and what their plan was at the time.
And you can also find people who are maybe not as far into the journey. There's a whole bunch of people always in the creator economy right now trying to build something. And so maybe trying to find someone who had just reached 10K per month, you know, or just hit 30 or 50, you know, as opposed to these like people who are doing like millions a month. So yeah, find more realistic case studies and set expectations right for yourself. So on to the quarter system now. The quarter system is there are 4 quarters in the year. You want to think about specifically what project can you tackle for the quarter. So each quarter, you're going to pick like a good project to work on. And then at the end of the quarter, you're going to evaluate again, did I make that happen? Or did I not make that happen? And then you can either continue that same project or add a different one on, or swap it out for one that makes more sense. So you're course correcting at a quarter level, but there is something like big project that you're working towards for that quarter.
And it could be a big project that spans multiple quarters.
Exactly.
If you think.
Yeah. And I think if it is a really big project like that, then it could be useful to like break it down into like different types of projects. Like I'm sure a big project can be broken down into smaller projects or like smaller avenues of projects. And so maybe it would be useful for us, at least talking about projects, to define what a project is. I think of a project as a package deal with skills. Okay. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Maybe we could just call it a package instead. You're going to work on a package. And the package includes projects and skills, because I don't think there is ever any situation where working on a skill without a project is useful, and vice versa. There's never a situation where like you should just learn a skill without a project, or work on a project without trying to develop new skills.
In my head, I'm trying to think of some examples. Like if you're trying to get really good at a skill without any reason, then that's just like
it's just a hobby,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. And then a project, when you start a project and you have no skills, I think that's also a hobby.
Yeah. You don't really get anywhere with it.
Right.
That's kind of why I put a package as projects and skills. Like they have to go together. If that's the case, then I think we can define both project and skill, because that helps like really define what does it mean to work or plan out this project for the quarter. So to me, a project has 2 things, and I call them, they're 2 Ds. So a project has a deliverable, which means like you have to have produced something out of it. And a project has a deadline. So you want to have at least some urgency or time pressure so that you know that you want to have delivered something by this time. If you don't have one of those 2 things, it doesn't really count as a project then, because you could just work on it forever, or you could just work and not produce anything, which doesn't really get you anywhere either. It's nice because the quarter, at least, we have identified that you will have produced something by the end of the quarter. That's what it means to have the project there. I kind of see skills as falling under 3 categories. So skills that you already have, which is great because you can just get better at them. Skills that you can recycle, so transferable skills. If you work at a coffee shop or something and you know how to talk to customers, that's customer service. That's a transferable skill that you can bring into sales, or a transferable skill that you can bring into customer success, you know, something like that. So there are transferable skills that you already can reorient. And then the third one is just skills that you don't have yet. So you have to learn those new skills. For skills that you don't have, you actually just have to go learn a skill. And to learn a skill, there is another framework that we can talk about. It's a framework that comes from Anders Ericsson about deliberate practice. You need to know how to do the skill. You need to get feedback on how well you're doing the skill. And then you just need to do it consistently to keep getting practice at doing the skill. So how well you're doing, and do it for long enough. So in order to complete this project, you have to think about what kind of skills do I already have? What kind of skills can I transfer over? Or what skills do I need to learn in order to deliver this by the deadline?
So when you say deliver or deliverable, does that mean that it should be in public, like posted in public? I'm assuming yes. Yeah. Because if you worked on this for like a year and you have nothing to show for it, then did you really work on it at all? You know, so I guess there needs to be some sort of public accountability. And that is where you want to think about your skills as like almost like your public resume, or like your public portfolio. So like when someone looks at your resume, they're looking for all the experiences and projects that you've done and the skills that you've built along the way.
Yeah.
So always thinking about, I guess to me, deliverables is just publicly showing that, hey, I've done these things. And if you want to work with me or you want to hire me, then I am capable of doing these things. I have these projects to prove it.
Yeah.
So that's like, at the end of the day, you're building up your portfolio, which is what Cal Newport calls career capital. You want to build up your career capital so that you can use it that is your leverage. And I think that transferable skills is something that he talks about a lot. Transferable skills is massive career capital that compounds very easily.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. That also kind of feeds into building a good skill, because I talked about you also need to get feedback about how well you're doing the skill. And one of the best ways to get feedback is to share it with people. And if you share it publicly, that just means you'll get even more feedback from people. So for example,
Let's say this person knows how to do web design, and this person wants to make money with that skill and knowledge.
this person is working for like a company right now and doing designs for them. And they want to get their own clients on the side. If they want to get to the point where they can be selling their services, it sounds like a service business would make the most sense of them doing designs for other clients as well. The best projects could be some way of just showcasing your ability to produce these designs, right? I think content is a great strategy for this individual. YouTube is probably one of the best platforms for showcasing your teaching abilities.
So we're saying that YouTube or content creation is the project for the quarter.
Yeah. Well, content creation would be like the skill. The project itself would be delivering a certain amount of videos or a certain amount of content.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So content creation would be the skill that you need in order to deliver on this project, which is, let's say for YouTube, for example, you use YouTube as the avenue that they choose, since that's where we are right now. Maybe you want to reach a good cadence of like 1 video per week. So the deliverable is 4 videos a month, or I guess 12 videos a quarter. If you want to achieve that deliverable and that deadline, then you need to build the skill of content creation. And so there are a lot of ways to learn how to create good content. You can get YouTube coaches, you can read books on persuasion, all those things. And the best way, again, is just practice and get feedback. So with each piece of content that you post every single week, you can share it with your friends, you can share it with the world, obviously, because it's public. People who comment on it will be giving you feedback. If they like the video, they will be giving you feedback that it's good. If it doesn't get shared, you'll know that it's not that good. The feedback of posting something publicly gives you like good evidence that you're on the right track.
So project number 1 is to grow a channel, whether it be YouTube or whatever you choose.
Yeah.
And the skills that come with that are being good at content creation.
Yeah. Maybe quarter 2, one of the projects would be like setting up.
Q1.
Yeah. So maybe Q2's project would be like setting up a landing page so people can learn more about your service.
So let's say first quarter, you're just trying to build out your channel, right? I will say as a caveat, because a lot of my friends ask me this, is think about your content creation as a way to get attention and to share with people that you're good at what you do.
Yeah.
But don't rely on it as a sole means of making money. So don't worry about posting to get views, to get revenue.
Yeah.
Right? Because the thing that makes you more money is the knowledge in your head. And you can package that in many different ways. Obviously, content is one way, but use the content to get better at your skills and to get the experience.
Yeah.
So I would say you can even start this in Q1 or Q2, but I think a more important project would be a project that actually improves the skill that you're trying to sell too. So like, let's say you're trying to sell web design, do some web design and get better at web design, right?
Yeah.
That is the main skill. And especially if you're already working in a job, document the projects or the websites that you design in your job. It doesn't matter if you have a boss in your job or a supervisor, you're still working on the project. Make sure you document everything. I mean, we have a bunch of freelancers working with us in our business, and I always encourage them, make sure you have a portfolio and all the things that you work with us, document the things that you do so you can use that and show other people like, hey, I've done this with Mike and Maddie, with Cajun Koi. And that's how you can start building up your career capital.
Yeah.
So focus on projects that increase the skill you're trying to sell.
Sure. So what would the deliverable be of that project?
So the deliverable would be the actual work that you do for the client. So if you're building a website for someone, then the deliverable is the finished website design.
Isn't that just what they're doing already?
That's what they're doing in the job. Exactly.
You're saying what they need to do is create a landing page where they're showcasing it.
Yeah. A landing page or
So that to me sounds like a better
social media
deliverable.
or wherever. Yeah.
That sounds like the better deliverable than if they're like able to showcase it publicly.
I think that they're both very valuable projects. Like the first project, the content creation project you were talking about, It allows you to talk about your opinions and allows you to teach. So people see like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And then the second project, when you're actually doing work for your customers, your clients, or you're working with your company,
Yeah.
it shows that this person has quality work. Like this person, A, knows what they're doing, and B, can actually do it. So both of those projects are important to show and to pursue.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great Q2 project to throw on there. And again, at the end of Q2 now, you would decide like, how are these two projects going? If I haven't made enough progress, should I just extend those to Q3 and 4? Or if they're at a good spot, do I want to add on another project to the roster to continue moving forward? The next project could be like, if you are trying to sell your services to other clients, like maybe hopping on a few sales calls, making your first sale, or like doing pro bono work for potential clients and then seeing if you can build relationships then to then network to get more leads in the future. That could be another good project. Again, like there's so many ways you can go. There's no right or wrong way, but you just think about what's best for yourself and your situation.
I guess I can give one little example here.
Yeah.
But we don't need to dive too far into it. Just so you know that there's so many different ways, like you said. Like while you're building this out, while you're doing your projects, you could start a little community for up and coming aspirational web developer freelancers and maybe get like 10 people in and all work together towards building out your portfolio. And there is another way that you can showcase your work with other people. The bottom line is focus, right? So we want to pick the projects and focus on the things that, not focus on too many things.
Right.
Focus on the most important things.
And even if I start a new project, these other ones that I'm currently working on won't suffer. So that is basically the quarter system right there. So now that you have like this project that you want to work towards, the next step is to break it down. How are you going to make sure that on a week by week basis, you're making incremental progress toward that quarter goal? So the week system to me really is not that sexy. It's like kind of boring, but it all comes down to just planning out a calendar for the week. Weekly scheduling to make sure that you are staying on track with your goals.
Well, actually, it's really hard to do because in college, it's done for you all the time. Like your teachers come up with the syllabus,
right?
And you have all the schedules done for you. Even if you transition into your job, your supervisor gives you your hours and they do all the planning for you.
Yeah.
So the big flip here is that you actually have to do it yourself.
Right. You are you are managing yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be your own manager.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we don't generally have to practice this skill very much until
It's a skill. It is a very difficult skill to do.
Yeah. I guess we don't have to practice it until we
It's like people's entire jobs is to just schedule you.
That is what the weekly system's all about. And to keep things as simple as possible, because again, there are so many different frameworks and ways that people do recommend scheduling your week. I like something very simple. I think simplicity is what allows me at least to be creative and still have the freedom to enjoy my life. I know a lot of people like time block really strictly and they just have fill up their entire day with task after task after task. I don't like that personally. And so the best framework that we found that's resonated with so many of our students specifically is to use something called the needs duties framework. So we really just think about two types of responsibilities that you have during the week. Things that you need to do, and needs I define as things that you need to do to keep the lights on. So there are certain things you need to do to just pay your bills, make sure your life runs smoothly and stays in order. So for example, if you are working at a job and you're doing this as a side hustle, your need is to go to work and earn a paycheck so you can pay your bills and keep the lights on. If you're a student, your need is to go to class, study and take your tests and take your exams to maintain good academic standing so you graduate. So needs also includes things like making sure you eat enough, making sure you get enough sleep, making sure that you exercise and your body is healthy. There are some universal needs and some like life maintenance needs. The next thing you want to think about are duties. If you want to become an innovator, which is build this business for yourself or reach this goal that you have, then it is your duty to also make time every single day to work on this project. So you want to make just a little bit of time every single day, even if it's not a whole bunch, because I understand that we're all busy people. If you have a full-time job, part-time job at all, then can you just like devote like at least 1 hour a day to work on this project? And it's your duty to make sure that somewhere in your schedule that happens. Keep it simple. Like I said, you can start with 1 hour, just making sure that 1 hour gets in there. If you have more time than an hour, that's great. When I was in med school, like I would go to work all day and then I'd come home and then I'd still have to study. But I just made sure like, I'm going to spend at least like 1 or 2 hours like writing a script or doing some research on this next video. You don't have to spend the whole day doing it. But if you just do that a little bit every day, you can feel good that you're making progress.
I think 2 tips here that really helped me is that, because a lot of people say like, oh, I don't have time to do this? Like, where do I find this hour? How do I make more time? At the end of the day, it comes back to sacrifice. Like, if you want to achieve something, there needs to be sacrifice on the other end. And one thing that worked for me is you just go to bed earlier. Like,
It's so hard for
it
people.
sucks, but
It's so hard.
especially when you're in school or when you're like want to enjoy some social life. And maybe it doesn't have to be every single night, but if you want an extra hour in the day, go to bed earlier and wake up an hour earlier and get your work done.
Yeah.
Because after work or after the hospital or after school, even if you have an hour in the evening, you're not going to want to work during that hour.
Yeah.
If you can, great, then ignore this tip. But if you can't find yourself, like if you can't get yourself to work, then just go to sleep earlier and then do it in the morning when there's no one bothering you. So that's the first tip there. Second tip is like, if you don't think you have time, just open up your phone, look at your screen time.
Yeah.
And there's your time right there. I forget who said that.
That's a good one. I think a lot of people are afraid to look at their screen time though.
Well, then if you're afraid to look at your screen time, then I don't think this path is for you because that is the least scary thing you have to do.
I know. Maybe they just feel guilty because they know they waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people who just say like it is a need of theirs to like decompress by scrolling. Like
Yeah.
they need to do that.
That's fine. You can do that for an hour a day if you want to.
But then you won't have that hour to
Yeah.
But you need that hour for your duty.
It just comes back to sacrifice. What is more important, you know?
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say with that screen time thing is that you can't generate more hours in a day, but you can always cut things out of your schedule.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we don't realize what we spend our time doing throughout the day. And we just feel like we're so overwhelmed and so busy when our screen time is usually a very telling sign of how we spend our day because most of us are on our phones all day long. And if you look at your screen time, you're spending like 6 hours a week on TikTok, then, well, we just found a lot of time that if you didn't scroll, like what value are you getting out of it? Is it actually something that you need to do? Is it keeping your lights on? If it's not, then it doesn't qualify for a need, which means it's not something that you should schedule into your calendar. So I think the main thing is just having something that's scheduled into your calendar means that you know you need to do it and you'll do it. If it's not in your calendar, then oftentimes you won't do it. They think about this just like, that's like going to work. Like if it's in your calendar, if things are in a calendar or in your schedule, it's a lot easier to do them, even if it sucks. Like when I was in med school, I remember like during surgery rotation, we had to get up in the hospital at 5 a.m. I don't like getting up early at 5 a.m., but it's in my calendar and I know I have to go there. So like I'll suck it up. I'll wake up early, I'll feel bad, and I'll get to the hospital on time. But if it wasn't in my calendar, I'm going to sleep in or I'm going to scroll on my phone. So it's just putting it into your calendar and committing to doing it. That is what is so valuable about this part of the system.
Yeah. It also works the other way around too. If you don't have it in your calendar, then you're going to go overboard and do it. Like if you could, like, honestly, you could just schedule 1 hour a day. I will scroll on TikTok to my heart's desire, right?
Yeah. But if it's a need, yeah.
If it's a need, then just schedule it in and you only have an hour to do it.
Yeah.
But if you don't schedule it in, then you're just going to bust it out and do whatever you want. And it's going to, sooner or later, it's going to be like 2 or 3 hours later and you had no control over it because calendar is just such a hack.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. If you don't put a time frame on it, then you're just going to do it indefinitely. Yeah. If it's bad.
And I know TikTok has that feature now where you can actually set limits.
I think you can do that for all of your phone, all your apps.
Yeah, right. You can do it for pretty much all your apps.
So the weekly system, is just making sure that you get traction. That's a term that comes from a book by
Gino Wickman's Traction.
Gino Wickman. Well, I was talking about the Nereal one about traction distraction.
Oh, yeah. Nereal. Traction is the opposite of distraction.
Right. So if you don't schedule it in, it's a distraction. But if you do schedule it in, it's traction. Because it's moving you towards your goal. So it's your duty to work on your project every single day. So if it's scheduled in, you'll know that day after day, you will start making traction towards achieving this project, or towards becoming that transformation that you want. So that's what the weekly system looks like. And in order to plan out your schedule, something that works for me is, and what we've been doing in our business too, is just picking one day of the week and putting it in your calendar too, so you don't forget. But like just spending one day a week for like an hour, just planning it out. Just plan out the whole week ahead, the same time every single week. And if you work on a team, then do it with the team members. Like we have our weekly meetings with our team every week to realign and figure out what we're going to work on. If you're working solo, then you don't have to do it with anyone. That's great. It's probably going to go even faster at that point. But during those meetings, it's important to, review the past week. How did things go? Do you need to make any changes? And then with that insight, plan out the next week. And then just repeat that for the whole quarter.
As a review, the quarterly, you're picking the packages of skills and projects to do on that path. And then on the weekly, you're making sure that you have a weekly plan and you have a weekly review. Those two things. Okay, so back to the example of the person who is
Designing.
web designing. What would a weekly plan and a weekly review look for this person?
Yeah, what do you think? I like to keep it simple and start with needs first and then duties, but yeah.
Okay, so you pick a day. Let's just say Sunday. Pick Sunday to be your day. On Sunday, you're going to figure out what you're going to be doing for the entire week. Monday through Friday, and you're going to specifically plan when in the day you're going to do your duty. That is like the most important thing. Make sure that's in there.
Right.
And then you can schedule in all of your needs and your housekeeping stuff.
Yeah. It might be easier to do your needs first if you know when they're going to be.
Oh yeah,
For example,
there's no order to it, but
right.
make sure those are in there.
Right. Well, it's like if you have a job, then sometimes job requires you to be working during certain times of the day. So if you already know that you're not going to be available from like 8 to 4 because of your day job, then you can't schedule your duty during that time. So if there are like non-negotiable deadlines that you have to put in your calendar, just go ahead and schedule those first, I would say.
Sunday is very important because you need to take the time to schedule.
Right.
Because when the Sunday comes back around, then you can use Sunday to reflect on the previous week and see, did you actually follow through with your duties? If you don't follow through with your needs, you're going to quickly see, like your life is going to start falling apart.
Yeah.
You're going to have overdue bills. You're going to have people complaining. But if you don't follow through with your duties, like nothing's going to really happen.
Yeah.
You can just keep kicking the can down the road and nothing will happen. Your life won't change. No one will know but you.
Well, I mean, that's the important part of that. Your life won't change. Isn't the whole point of this is to change your life.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is like no one will know but you.
Right.
If you don't treat that Sunday as like the holy day for yourself to always reflect on what happened and plan ahead of time, that Sunday is like the pillar. It is like the weekly pillar that holds the entire system for the week together. So if you don't treat that as such, then you're not going to make the change.
Yeah.
This is pretty simple, straightforward.
I think it's also a really good idea while we're doing this planning that you get as specific as possible in knowing when and what you're going to be working on. Like it's pretty easy to say like, yeah, on Monday, I'm going to make an hour to work on my project. And then when you sit down at that hour, you're like, okay, now what do I do? If you can even take it a step further while you're doing this weekly planning, it's like, what exactly on Monday are you going to work on? Is it going to be scripting? If you're working on YouTube video, is it going to be researching? Is it going to be editing? Just being as specific as possible, I think is going to be very useful too. So for this design person, yeah, like if you do work the day job during the week, put those in first. If you have like workouts that you have at your yoga class or something, put those like Tuesday, Thursday. And then Monday, if you maybe Monday is going to be for Q1 researching the topic you want to talk about. Tuesday is going to be filming. Wednesday is going to be editing. Thursday is going to be getting it ready to publish. And then Friday is going to be publish and then commenting and doing feedback reviews. Something like simple like that, just like having a specific thing to do every single day. And then when the next Sunday comes around, you can reevaluate how that went and if you need to make any changes. And now we get to the last part of the system, which is breaking down the week into days. Because like you said, you need to know what to do every single day. And you need to make sure that you're capable of executing on your weekly plan. And so the day framework that we wanted, again, to keep things simple as possible is that if you want to sustain your ability to focus on this transformation day after day, then you need to tackle it from 3 different angles, from the mind, body, and spirit. So each one of those areas needs your attention. So the mind area, this one goes more towards the actual duty. It's like every single day you do want to make some time to like train your mind, which basically means doing deep work, right? You want to spend an hour, like we said, at least a day doing deep work towards that project. Because as we know, it's like you can make an hour to work on a project, but if during that hour you're distracted, you're on your phone, then you're not really going to make any progress. And so it's your duty to train your mind by removing distractions, picking a quiet place, getting into like some cognitive flow state to work on this project. If you get into a flow state, it's going to feel good. Like people love being in flow. That's what like athletes, performers, top people. That's why work can be, for a lot of people, can be very enjoyable, is if you enter that flow state where you're just like effortlessly like immersed and enjoying the work that you're doing.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm sure there's like a bunch of formulas that we can probably talk about all day in this area, but
yeah. So that's the mind aspect of it. The body aspect is now just like thinking about your energy levels. So in body, I like to break it down into like the three big areas of your life. As physicians, we can probably like both agree on this. Like if you can nail these three areas, then most of your health problems will probably go away, at least preventatively, which is sleep, diet, exercise.
Right. Yeah.
So get enough sleep, like you already talked about, is so important. Exercise, get your body moving, keep it healthy. And then dieting, what you're eating, what you put in, caffeine intake, hydration. Just kind of nail those three things. At least develop some kind of routine to where your body operates best. So those three things, just got to get them in check to keep your body running smoothly. And the last thing is kind of an interesting one, which a lot of people forget about, but is your spirit. So spirit is finding a way every single day to reconnect with your values, your beliefs, and why you want this transformation. So there are a lot of ways that you can do this. I know a lot of people endorse like meditation or journaling or gratitude practice. And you need to incorporate some sort of value system into every single day to give you like a North Star for the reason, the purpose behind why you're pairing your mind and your body for this traction that you're trying to build. And I think it's a really important aspect that, especially when a lot of people are younger and they don't really have like a direction of what they're doing in their life, is because they don't have anything they value. They don't have anything that they're working towards. And so just keeping it top of mind at least once a day is pretty important.
I think making it a ritual is very important so that you actually do it. And it's just something that is so underestimated. Like when people make time to, I mean, I don't do this, but I know a lot of people do. When people make time once a day to just pray for their religion, any sort of spiritual ritual, that is just your way of reminding yourself, like, why am I living? You know, what am I doing tomorrow? What am I supposed to be doing on this earth? That ritual just reminds you like what you're here for and what you're going to do tomorrow. Like it's just like pretty simple to think about.
Yeah. No, it is like your personal philosophy. Like we've brought it up in a previous episode before, but think about Dune.
Yeah.
Think about how powerful belief is, that it can make you do incredible things. It can make groups of people do incredible things if they have something that they believe in. Kobe Bryant, great example. Like he had this belief every single day, the Mamba mentality that he lived by. And that's how he was able to get up every single day and just do super hard work all the time. When we went into medicine, we had to take something called the Hippocratic Oath before, beginning our practice, which is, to do no harm, to treat people fairly, all those things. And like, even when we had difficult patients or tough encounters, that was the value that we pledged to. And so we were able to do hard things even though we didn't want to.
It's like
and so
code.
Yeah.
Code of conduct.
A code of conduct. And so, like you said, it's not an easy path. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs, probably a lot more downs when you're early on in the process. And so having that code in place, that code of conduct in place, will give you the power to continue pushing. So looking at a day now, what would a day look like for this graphic design human on their path to 10K per month?
Okay, so at the day level, you're going to have needs and duties to do. And if you've done the week properly, then you know when you're going to be doing each of these things, right? You have a morning, you have an afternoon, and you have an evening. Yeah. It's like just 3 phases of the day. And if you plan it out properly, then it's just a matter of getting it done. And the way to get it done, mind, body, spirit, is you just got to keep those in tune, keep them aligned, and have enough fuel to get those things done. But you don't have to know everything minute by minute. Just know like vaguely what you're going to be doing in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Yeah. And then have like wiggle room to like get around your overhead, your commute, your whatever you need to do to transition between those periods.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty important thing to think about too, is having flexibility, because like you said, this is a long path and we're playing the long game here. And especially if you're just getting started, we don't want to burn out too quickly or get too demotivated. So giving yourself space to make mistakes and also giving some free time in your schedule to where like it's really hard to go from like not doing anything to like 80-hour work week, like hyper entrepreneur. Like it's okay to like slowly work your way there until you start to build that like intrinsic motivation of like progress from it. But yeah, if you're just getting started, I would actually recommend not like cold turkey, just going like super aggressive 100-hour work weeks.
Well, it's going to look very different. Just imagine like there's two, like on a chart, when you start, you're going to be not so much spending time on your business and more so spending time on whatever the needs you have during that life. Like you can be spending more time on school, more time at work, and less time on your own business. But as time progresses, the graph changes where you get to spend more time on your business and you'll slowly taper off and do less time on school, less time at work. If you're one of these students who started a business during school and your business just took off and you're helping hundreds of thousands of people and you're making a big difference, and you're making a lot of money, then maybe your graph goes on the school side, maybe your graph goes all the way down to 0 and you drop out of college. That's like, that is a scenario that can happen.
That's the Zuckerberg
Exactly.
path.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Bill Gates path.
Yeah. But everyone's path like will gradually change over time.
Right.
You just know that it's going to change and have your own systems in place when that changes. That's why we're doing this podcast. So you can use a system to make sure that when you change, you have stability. So I think at the end of the day, the main theme here is that you're just trying to get your life back on track, get more control of your life. That's like the theme here. That's like what the theme of building your own business is all about. It's more autonomy, more freedom, more control for yourself, living life on your own terms.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate transformation. Self-reliance. And so if you think about it, like you go through school and there's not a lot of control. Like if you want to learn how to make better YouTube videos, there's no class for that. There's no option. So you can only choose the classes that they offer you. So there's no control there. Again, when you finish school and you try to go out in the workforce, you're trying to apply for a job, you're just like sending applications everywhere, but you don't have control. They come to you, they hire you. And when they put you onto their team, they tell you what to do. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. Like if you're okay with having less control, then by all means, you can still live an amazing life doing all those things. But for the people who want control over their life and are watching this podcast, at the end of the day, this structure is all for creating your own control. So you're picking the skills that you want to develop, you're picking the projects that you want to do, and you're making sure that those compound towards the future that you want. If you don't pick the skills, you don't pick the projects, then they're going to be given to you. Someone else is going to give them to you and you're going to work on their projects, which is fine. Like that's up to you to decide which way you want to go.
Having so many options to choose from is very difficult to pick. So yeah, like having this system, which is really just like, if you think about the day, week, quarter, year, it's like 4 cogs in a machine. They're all kind of turning together. And having all those systems in place just makes it much easier to develop traction to reaching that transformation. I think there was some Layla Hormozi podcast I listened to where she was like, the difference between the entrepreneurs who make it and the ones who don't is simply prioritization. And prioritization just comes down to having very clear plan of action and very clear like objectives that you want to reach for every single day, every single week, every single quarter, every single year. And so that's really what this blueprint is supposed to provide.